wheel is going to keep turning, but we are live. Hello, and welcome to the final session of day 3 of the This Is Burnout campaign. I'm joined by Dennisse Bray for this final session. Before we ask Dennisse, or before I say hi to Dennisse and ask her to introduce herself, remember, if you are watching this live or on replay, if you've got comments, if you want to share, if you've got anything that you want to add, please do so with the hashtag This Is Burnout, so we can continue to raise awareness and get some conversations started about this really, really important topic. So without further ado, Dennisse, hi, how are you?
Good morning, Kelly. I am doing great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well, thank you. Now, we're on different coasts, aren't we? So what time is it for you?
It is 7 a.m., 7:05 a.m.
7 a.m. for you, and it is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 p.m. for us. Thank you for joining me so early for you, so we could get this conversation going. I really, really appreciate it. Before we get into then your experience of burnout and that topic, just give us a little bit of an introduction. So who's Dennisse? What do you do?
Sure. My name is Dennisse Bray, and my pronouns are she, her. I am I'm an immigrant. I've been, living in the U.S. since I was a child, and have just had a very organic and non-traditional journey through my career in HR. I've been in HR for 15 years, and I will say that I did not expect to be in HR. I landed into it, so I'll preface with that. It's been
lots of people do, Dennisse. Yeah, lots of people do.
Yeah. But happy to be in this space. And I, in my non-professional work life, my non-professional life, I have a boxer beagle mix named Marmaduke, and my husband and we live in Washington State. I grew up in California, so definitely miss the sunshine year round, but I love being in the Pacific Northwest. I also study hula. I've been dancing for, I think it's close to 8 years. So
wow.
That's my external hobby. And then, in between all of that, I love to read, listen to music, and just enjoy being outside in nature.
Wonderful. I love all of that. So a boxer beagle mix, that must be quite a I'm going to say excitable dog, is it? Marmaduke. Love the name, but I'm thinking like boxer beagle.
He definitely, he has a big goofy personality.
Yeah.
He is he's very sweet, and he's a complete goofball, and I love him.
Brilliant. I love my dog too. I think there's something. I'm craving sunshine at the moment. It has just been like grey, wet, windy, cold here for now what feels like forever. So yeah, I'm with you on the sun. I just need sunshine. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. Lovely introduction. Thank you. So Dennisse, to start us off by talking to us, when did you experience burnout?
So I would say the first time I realized I was experiencing burnout. I've done a lot of reflection after watching some of the other sessions, that it may have happened much sooner than I think it did. But the first time that I really realized that I was experiencing burnout was, it started in the last couple of months of 2019. I went through a very sudden layoff that really shook my world in a really big way. And that happened in October of that year. And then about a month later, my spouse, who works in the trades, experienced a significant theft of on the job site, and lost, a lot of tools, and just, it was a really hard month for us both. And so I think the processing of the layoff, thinking about what was next, doing all of the things one does after such a significant change, kind of started that burnout feeling for me. I did gain new employment in that January of 2020, working in a restaurant with a restaurant company. And then about 2.5 months later, the pandemic hit. and things were starting to, shut down nationwide. So it was a really difficult time where we kept going, but it was difficult. It was very hard.
And that was when it kind of came. So again, I think, and again, like my heart just goes out to everybody that's kind of experiencing this. I think, again, a common theme, if I can call it a theme, of definitely the conversations that I've had today, is that there seems to be, I don't know if I want to say a traumatic event, but there seems to be like a big event that's happening that then seems to be the knock-on effect for everything that comes after that, which is then ultimately leading to burnout. And I suppose my question to you within that, with all of the stuff that you had going on within that kind of month and towards the end of 2019, and well done on being able to secure a new role as quickly as you did in 2020. But over that period in 2019, did you, or were you able to have the time to process how you felt during that time?
That's an excellent question. And no, I didn't. In retrospect, it was me, right? I had the one regret, I guess, I have from that big change is that I wish that I had taken a little bit more time to process, but instead what I did was, took off the rest of that week, basically the weekend, and then the following week started the job search right away, because of course, you have responsibilities, financial responsibilities, and I felt like I couldn't wait around, right, for something to happen. And so I did not take the time. I had an opportunity to be able to not have to rush right back into it, and I didn't. And I really wish that I had, because I think that would have made a really significant difference into everything else that was to come later on in 2020. So
thank you. And with hindsight, so you said you had an opportunity to not rush into something else. With hindsight, looking back on that now, what do you think caused you, created you to have that opportunity to take some downtime and not take it?
I think it's a two-part answer for me. One, I think my cultural background, where I was raised with this, with the notion that you just have to work really hard all the time, and that's you do your job, you do it well. Don't rock the boat, don't make waves, just go do what you do. And that's the most important thing, right? Because that's what drives everything else. So I think it was partially just my upbringing and how I've been told what I've been told my relationship with work should be. And then the second part of that is that just for me, I was having anxiety about what would happen if I did not start the job search right away. What would that mean for my family? What would that mean for the financial responsibilities that I had? How would we pay our mortgage, our bills? Marmaduke has pet insurance. Like, how would his care continue? There were just so many things that it did not feel right for me to just rest and process. And again, that is something that when I look back on it now, I really wish that I had just nudged myself and said, no, you need to go. It was hard. And it was emotionally challenging for me. I need to go decompress and then be prepared for the next thing instead of just going right into it.
Yeah, thank you. But I suppose, I mean, you've mentioned there the kind of the cultural upbringing, but I think also there is this thing, and I am going to stereotype here from a gender sense, but actually for us as women, and you've mentioned there, like, the financial responsibility, Marmaduke needs, pet insurance. We've got all of this stuff to do. We are taught and told and trained and conditioned, literally, I think from the time that we probably come out of the womb, that our role is to ensure that we are putting other people ahead of ourselves. And so then in that situation, you had the opportunity to allow yourself, like, I'm going to put myself first for once, right? And then it sounds like what you're saying is that inner work, it was like, you can't do that because you've got responsibilities. And, you know, even your dog's pet insurance is more important than your well-being and you giving time for yourself, right? That's what we're saying, right?
Yes.
The pet insurance of Marmaduke, and, you know, clearly a very, very important part of your family, and I'm not underplaying that.
Yeah.
But the line of it was, you know, my baby Marmaduke, he has pet insurance, and that has to come before me.
Yes. I mean, hearing it, to me, you know, yes. I mean, it sounds, hearing it now, so many years later, and putting it in that perspective, absolutely. But yeah, that's how I've operated my entire life. I've always put others' well-beings, others' feelings, others, you know, livelihoods, etc., above my own. And I think that change, that significant change and then all of those events from 2019 were the catalyst to really realizing how burned out I was, not even just from those events, but just, I think, holistically.
Yeah.
From how much I've always invested into others without taking time to fill my own cup. And you know, that's something that once that kicked in for me, it was such an eye-opening experience that I mean, I'm glad it happened, right? Because I think if that had not happened, if I had not felt the way that I did, I don't know if I would have been cognizant of how that feels and what it means.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. What were the signs for you then? So you said, kind of looking back on it, and you even started the conversation by saying, actually listening to some of the conversations that we've been having this week, potentially you were even there sooner. So what were some of the signs for you that you were feeling and experiencing at that time?
So I started having anxiety and panic attacks. I even recall one time going to a physician, and I was having really different physical symptoms that I had not had before. And one of the physicians I went to basically told me, you know, uh, breathe into a bag, right? Slow down your breathing. It's your shallow breathing that is actually causing these symptoms, which in turn is causing more anxiety. So it was just really interesting that, you know, something as simple as breathing, which we do every day, but that, you know, just that reminder of like, you need to slow down and be mindful of how you're breathing. So panic, anxiety attacks was a big thing. Sleeplessness, you know, difficulty sleeping. And then if I did sleep, it was not restful sleep. It felt like it felt like I was just doing the minimum amount of sleeping, basically, to be able to function. But it was not restful. That was very rare. Outside of my work responsibilities, just having difficulty doing simple things like even grocery shopping sometimes felt overwhelming, right? Especially during the pandemic when we had the supply shortage and all of these things. Like all of those little things just became felt like these huge tasks that I used to just be able to do. And now I felt like I had to mentally prepare to be able to do those things. And then more on a greater scale, physical symptoms, pains, a lot, that feeling of the pit in the stomach, right? Just constantly feeling really physically stressed out. And then all of those things combined just made it so that when I did have any type of downtime, I didn't want to do anything. I could not get myself to do really simple things. And it felt really scary because I had never experienced something like that prior to that time.
Yes. And I think that's a common theme of everybody that's been going on today, that there is that kind of the scariness, the fear, the what is going on. How long did it take you until did you seek support? And if so, how long did it take you from that point to actually getting the support that you needed?
Yeah, I went through what I would consider non-traditional ways of support. I started finding um, different ways to try to address the situation. So, like I mentioned, for the physical symptoms, I did get medical care primarily to rule out any major health concerns,
Mhm.
to make sure that it truly, it was not actually my body, but it was something else that was happening. So I did seek out medical care.
Mhm.
As far as like emotional support, obviously my family, my husband was a great pillar of support for me during that time, even though he was going through what he was dealing with. We've really leaned on each other to help through those things. I think
Mhm.
having really real raw conversations was really helpful too, because I think for me the hardest thing was being able to put into words what I was feeling. So just talking about it was really significant. And then started doing a lot of meditation, right? So I downloaded some meditation apps, did breathing exercises, journaled more, wrote things down, let myself be able to think about how I was feeling and really stop and check in with myself. So I didn't do things like, I know it's pretty, it's, some people may seek out things like therapy. I just had not thought of going that route.
Mhm.
I really just wanted to find ways, I guess, to self-soothe. For a lot of it, it worked. But it's just something that I still have to be really mindful of how I am feeling, and I have to continue to check in with myself. And should I ever feel like I need to go back to a different method of support, I absolutely will. I think I've reached the point where I there's no rock that I would leave unturned at this point to be able to process that if I were ever to feel that way again.
I like the sound of that. Thank you. I'm myself. I'm big into kind of breath work and breathing techniques and meditation and as much holistic stuff as possible. Like I'll soak it up as much as we can. What do you think, particularly with the breath work, actually, because I think or breathing practices, because that's something that we've not touched on a huge amount this week. What do you think was the benefit of that? Because as you kind of started talking a few moments ago, you said like we all breathe.
Mhm.
And yes, of course we do, because we're here, right? We're live and breathing and having this conversation. But to me, there is a huge difference when it comes to the breathing practices and methodology, in that actually the difference is that we are doing it mindfully, and the power of the breath is incredible. So just if you would just talk us through a little bit about that, because that's not something that we've touched on at all this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's, we oh, sorry, my happy light just tipped over. I have a happy light for the seasonal
I don't
um
blame you.
weather. uh so Breathing, is something we do every day. We don't think about it. So breathing exercises, and there are several ones. My favorite one, and right now I'm drawing a blank on what it's officially called, but it's basically I breathe, in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts.
Yeah.
That has been the one that has been the most helpful to me
So
personally.
lots of names for that one, but I think I know it as box breathing.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So, what it does on a psychological level for me is it makes me stop.
Mhm.
And that's what I have the hardest time doing. I am someone who always feels like I have to be doing something, otherwise I'm not being productive. I have to be doing something, otherwise I am not contributing to the world, right?
Mhm.
That's like it may sound a little bit silly, but that's how I feel. And so having to stop and literally focus just on my breathing has been such a tremendous help, because it makes me pause.
Mhm.
And that's what I was having a really tough time doing before 2019. And ever since that happened, now when I start to feel, if I ever, we all have good and bad days, right? There are we're human beings, and that's something that is really important for people to remember, even in the HR space. And that's a whole other topic, but we're still humans, and we just forget. We just try to get so many things done and do so much for other people that it's just hard. So I think that's what it does. It just makes you have to stop completely, stop whatever you're doing, and just focus solely on the one thing that we all do every day and don't think about.
Yeah. And it can be magic, right? As you said, as you're kind of mindfully doing it, you have to be in it, right? You have to be in your body, you have to be in the moment, but you can literally feel yourself slowing, or again, there's lots of different breathing techniques out there. There are some that you can use to increase your energy and, all sorts of things. But actually for calming, I don't know about you, but I can feel the chaos like just falling away.
Yeah, it feels like it's just kind of melting. I always think of anxiety and those feelings as like this really dark cloud, and doing something as simple as stopping to breathe makes it feel like that cloud is moving on, moves along, and then the air becomes clearer, your mind becomes clearer. I had never thought about I thought about meditation, as a practice when I was just feeling really stressed out, but I had not thought of it as a way to be able to function in my everyday life. And so when I made that realization that what a difference it made, I haven't not done that.
Yeah. And again, that's something that I can relate to as well. I think on Tuesday, one of the guests, Jay Unwin, and he was like meditation is not for me. And actually that's how I started out. It was like all I kept doing was like my to-do list was going over and over in my head. I was like, this is not restful, right? There's nothing calming about it. But again, as I came back to it, and I think the more that I understood the purpose of it and the benefits of it, and actually that it wasn't about nothingness. I think there seems to be this kind of misconception that actually meditation is about completely quieting your mind until you just have nothing going on in your head. And of course that's not the focusing on our breath or focusing on one thing at a time, whether it's counting or numbers or colors or the breath or something. But there is a focus. There could be without. You could do meditation with or without. But actually, it's not about the nothingness. And I think if we're assuming that is the goal, actually that can lead to even more stuff, right? Because then you think, well, I'm not doing this right. I'm a failure. This isn't like I can't even meditate. This is supposed to be easy. And at a time when you are highly stressed, close to burnout, anxious, all of those sorts of things, if that is what you think the goal is, that's not meditation doing what it's supposed to be doing for you.
Yeah, and that's a really great call out, because I have been there, right? I think you hear about people talk about meditation, and then if you yourself can't quiet your mind immediately, and maybe that's the expectation. People meditate and they've never done it before, and they still feel their mind is going 100 miles a minute. It's a practice. It's something you have to do regularly. It doesn't happen at the first try. And so you're right. I think a lot of people may give up on it because it's not an instant fix. It doesn't do anything in the moment. But I can attest to the fact that if you do it regularly and you find that it works for you, it works wonders. And so I think, like with everything else, it just takes practice and dedication, and it may not work for everyone, but if it works for some, that's already a group of people that can be impacted by it. And not all forms of meditation will work for everyone. I think that's the other thing to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
Because it just depends. We're all so different. So
yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. So Dennisse, what do you What do you think? So if well, I suppose let's go back a little bit. So you had this in kind of, so 2020 or 2019, 2020, you're going through this period. You've not given yourself the time to kind of recover from 2019. You've gone straight into something else. What's happened between 2020 and 2023 for you?
Well, a couple of things. So one, I did, move to a new company in 2021. So I think that was a really a great change for me. And so it was just something that I've had a really great opportunity to work on a lot of really awesome things, and just continuously learning. I would say the one thing that has changed for me since then is just that now when I have those days, when when I have a day where it's challenging, I know to pause
Mhm.
and process, and then really be mindful about how I tackle that challenge or what I do next. And I think when I reflect back to pre-October of 2019, I would just continuously push through, and it very much felt like a hamster on a wheel, right?
Mhm.
I was running really fast, but I wasn't getting anywhere, and that's how I was feeling. And when I would feel that way, I would just keep going. Whereas now, I am more mindful about, no, I need to stop and pause and think and have a plan. And that's okay. I now I give myself a lot more grace and compassion. I realized I'm really great about giving others grace and compassion and thinking about, giving people the benefit of the doubt, doing what's best for everybody else. And I wasn't doing the same thing for me.
Mhm.
And so now I do that for myself as well. So that has made a really significant change, not just professionally, but also on a personal level, because I'm able to um, tackle things personally in a much different way. And the other thing that's really changed is I share my story more.
Mm.
Um, I I also grew up in an environment where we did not talk about personal challenges. It was like
Okay.
you were going through something, but no one else, it's no one else's business. So you just keep doing what you do and power
Mhm.
through.
Yeah.
And so that's what when I saw that you were doing this, holding these sessions, I was so excited because I realized that maybe if I had heard someone with a similar story to mine in 2019, that could have been an eye-opening experience then. And I really want to be able to share my story so that if anyone else has been feeling any of those things and hadn't really thought about burnout, or, hadn't considered that it might be, that they stop and pause and really check in with themselves. I really want this to be something. And I know I've seen, right, these conversations happening more and more. I think the pandemic shifted a lot of perspective for a
Yeah.
lot of people. And so, um, that's the other thing. I'm much more open to sharing and being vulnerable and sharing my what I've gone through, in hopes that someone else may be able to relate and then be able to sort out what they need as well. So that those all have been really significant things for me personally.
I love that. Thank you. And again, I'm grateful. This week, whilst I probably could have spoken about this nonstop for 16 hours, I think what is proving useful is the different conversations that we're having, and I think we've all had the impact of burnout on us has been very similar. The signs of burnout have been very similar. But
Mhm.
ultimately, I am speaking to 16 different people this week. We all have different, we're all from different backgrounds. Some of us are from different countries, different towns, different genders, different races, different religion, different family circumstances, all of those things. And it is important. This can happen to any of us. And I've repeatedly said throughout this week, like, none of us start our career going, I know, the highlight of my career is going to be getting really burnt out. Like, none of us are saying that. And I'm really grateful for to you and everybody else that has taken part of this, because I think hearing the different voices and seeing the different circumstances in which burnout can happen and the different way it's impacting people is absolutely important. And you're absolutely right. The more that we talk about this stuff, hopefully, my wish, then hopefully the quicker we can begin to take the change that's needed. And yeah, if somebody had seen your story a year ago or wherever, or if you had seen somebody else's story in 2019, would you have stopped before you got to that point? Possibly, right? Would you have taken that time out knowing that you had the space to be able to do that? Possibly. Might you have made, and I think that's the thing we've been, like, none of us think it's going to happen to us. You may not have changed anything, right? You might have seen somebody's story and kind of thought, well, that's you, but I'm different because I know all of this really great stuff and I'm really awesome. And of course, that's never going to happen to me. And then you find yourself in the situation, and I know a lot of the messages that I get from people, even people have been following me for like 5 years. And they're like, I've been following you for 5, always found you, inspirational or, really open or really honest, but I never thought it would happen to me. And now I'm knocking at your door because it did happen. And that's why I think it's important to keep talking about this, because actually, if I'd have stopped talking about it 5 years ago, would the people that are now experiencing it feel able to say, hands up, this is me too, and now I want to be part of the conversation to take this forward? And I literally can talk about this all day, every day, forever, probably. But my hope is that we do not have to get to that point. I just want these short story sharing, and hopefully will make a difference. So I'm pleased that you're sharing yours. Thank you so much. Dennisse, just finally, before we kind of finish, what do you think people need to know about burnout that we're not widely speaking about?
So 2 things come to mind. One is that burnout can happen to anyone in any industry, regardless of how long they've been in their role or their job. It does not. There is no formula to what burnout is, and so I would say that it's important for everyone just to be aware of what the general symptoms are, and just really stop and check in with yourselves. I think that's the most important thing. No one else can tell you how you are feeling, and it's hard when you cannot put into words or articulate your feelings, right? So just check in with yourself daily, and be really, really cognizant of that. The second thing is, burnout can make you feel like your abilities and your skills are not there. I feel like that is something that, I don't know, some people may be talking about it, but a lot of people don't address that specific thing. And that, there's a lot of conversation about things like imposter syndrome, and I think it's a really common feeling sometimes especially when you've been in a career for a long time and you're like, how do I just know how to do this, right? Like, it's kind of amazing when you look back on it. But burnout can absolutely make you feel like you should not be where you are. It can make you feel like your skill set is not as strong as you once thought, and it truly like masks that for you. And so I think the other thing to keep in mind is just very simply to know and that you are where you are because of the work that you have done. And not only do we have to stop and check in with ourselves about our symptoms and how we're feeling, but also take a moment, daily if possible, but maybe at least weekly, and look back at what you've accomplished that week and give yourself that pat on the back. Because sometimes you may not hear it from external sources. We're always, I feel like as human beings, it's in our nature to always seek external validation and have someone else tell you what a good job you've done.
And HR can be, if you're in it, it can happen in lots of different jobs, right? But HR can be quite a thankless job at times, right? Nobody's knocking on your door like, hey, Dennisse, you were awesome today.
Yes, I would. HR is a very different world. For those of us who've been in HR for a long time, it is it is absolutely, we literally, our focus is the employee life cycle. And again, people forget, right, that HR, there's the human component of HR, and the operators of HR are also human beings. We also have dreams and ambitions and challenges and good days and bad days, etc. So yes, I think that adds a layer of complexity for sure. And I also think that to your point, yeah, it's when everything is going really well in general, there's a perspective, right? HR, we're just doing what we do. When things don't go as great, then I've spoken to many people in my HR journey, and especially in the last few years, who have shared their very difficult stories with HR and just how painful of an experience it was. And I am here to say, as I've posted before on my LinkedIn, and I will continue to relay this message, I know that there are a lot of us in this space who are out to build a completely different way of approaching HR. And I am so proud of that. I think it was the pandemic, played a big role in that, but we are like breaking down those barriers, and really presenting HR more as a partner, and a strategic partner, rather than the people who will always relay like bad news, because I feel like that's the more common perception. So yeah, it's definitely in a different space, and there are a lot of HR folks out there who are doing the same thing. But yeah, it can feel very much like a thankless job in general. Like I said, I've been for 15 years, and it's across all industries. That's just how the nature of HR. So it does.
It
make
is,
a little bit,
sadly.
yeah.
Yes. But, again, the more people that are flying the flag to say, actually, we can do it differently, we can be more strategic, we can add value, right? We can change the world of work. The more that we get that message going, then absolutely, I think you're right. We can really start to change it. I know of, and I would like to think that I was an earlier one that was kind of shaping a new way of doing it, and doing those things. I know some incredible people that are absolutely doing it differently, and the difference that they are making to the people within their organizations just absolutely makes my heart melt. I think where I want to shrivel up inside is where I still see this kind of copy and paste approach to HR, and it's all about policies, and all of just no. I get some of that is needed, but I just think the more that we put people at the heart of the organization and showcase the value that HR can add, that's the stuff that I love seeing. I think there are some incredible people out there, and I think that those of them like you just need to keep flying the flag a little bit more and saying, yes, there is a different way of doing it. So awesome. Is there anything that you just want to highlight that I haven't asked you today just before we finish?
I guess I just want to reiterate that burnout can happen to anybody at any point in time. And also, burnout can feel like it's creeping up on you, or like it suddenly happened. But actually, at least in my personal experience, the signs were there early on, and I just did not pay attention. So I would also say, again, mindfulness is extremely important. Pausing is extremely important. I know we all have very important work to be done. But I also know that you cannot fill from an empty cup.
Yeah.
Right. So as much as possible, like, I'm a huge proponent of, I encourage people when they're on PTO, for example, unplug, properly rest and recharge.
Yes.
You cannot reasonably just constantly be working. You're going to burn yourself out, even if that's not your intention. So I would just say, be mindful, do good work, do the best you can with the tools that you have, and always be open and willing to learn, be open to different ideas, etc. But remember that you have to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of other people.
Absolutely.
So that would be my one message, is just make sure you check in with yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And so again, thank you for booking your slot to speak to me this week. Thank you for being so open about what you've shared. Thank you for, again, another great perspective for this week. I'm loving all of the conversations this week and just seeing, again, how we are different but also similar in our thoughts and approaches. So thank you. Dennisse, if people want to get in contact with you, find out more about you, connect or follow, where's the best place for them to do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn, and just look up Dennisse Bray. That's Dennisse with 2 N's and 2 S's. And I'm happy to connect. I'm also a very active member in an HR community called HR Superstars. For any HR folks, I would highly encourage you to join that community as well, because we help uplift each other and work through different things. So
Amazing.
Always open to connections and happy to talk with anyone who may have questions or, just wants to share their story. And Kelly, thank you so much for the opportunity. Truly, I've been really looking forward to this conversation and being able to share my journey. And I very much appreciate you having all of these sessions. They have been really fascinating to listen to. And you're right, there are so many parallels, and seeing how many different people have had an overlap of experience has been very reaffirming. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, thank you very much for taking part. Like I said, I could have spoken non-stop about this for 16 hours on my own, but I think the audience would have got a little bit bored of me. So without you and everybody else that I've been speaking to this week, it just would not be possible. So I'm going to say thank you very much. Do go and connect with Dennisse on LinkedIn. As she said, 2 N's, 2 S's, Dennisse Bray. Find her on LinkedIn, connect there. Again, if there's anything from this conversation or any of the others, please keep sharing with the hashtag #ThisIsBurnout. Let's keep this conversation going and hopefully prevent somebody else from getting to the point that all of us this week haven't gotten to. So thank you very much. I will be back with you 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. I think I am with my first guest tomorrow I think Victoria. It's either Victoria or Taz. Hang well with me 1 second. 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, I am back with Victoria Hall. Again, that's going to be another great conversation. And I will see you all tomorrow. Keep sharing the hashtag #ThisIsBurnout. Thank you all very, very much. I'm now about to go and jump on a train, get myself into London, and I'll be back with you all tomorrow. Thank you very much. Take care for now, everybody. Bye. Dennisse, thanks.